good was Shaun Alexander, actually? And he won the NFL MVP. He broke the all-time touchdown record. He took the Seattle Seahawks to their first ever Super Bowl, where they lost a heartbreaker to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was on the cover of Madden. And yet, over a decade after becoming eligible, Shaun Alexander has never even been named a Hall of Fame semifinalist. Not a finalist, not an inductee, not even a semifinalist. Meanwhile, two of the guys who blocked for him, Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson, both have gold jackets. So what happened? Was Shaun Alexander one of the best running backs in NFL history? Or was he just a very good player riding a very great offensive line? Let's find out. To understand Shaun Alexander, you have to go back to Florence, Kentucky, a quiet town. Not exactly a hotbed of NFL talent, but from the moment Shaun picked up a football, it was obvious he was different. By the time he was a senior in high school, he had racked up 6,662 rushing yards and 110 touchdowns across his prep career. Both numbers in the top 10 in prep history. He scored 54 touchdowns in his senior year alone. That's a state record. ESPN named him the #1 player in the country. Notre Dame wanted him. Michigan wanted him. He chose Alabama, and he didn't waste a single day. As a redshirt freshman at Alabama, Shaun Alexander took the field against LSU in Baton Rouge, one of the loudest, most hostile environments in all of college football, and ran for 291 yards and 4 touchdowns on just 20 carries. A school record that still stands today on the road as a redshirt freshman against LSU. That's not a system product, that's a player. He went on to finish his Alabama career with 3,565 rushing yards and 41 touchdowns, earning first-team All-American honors in his senior season. And when the 2000 NFL draft rolled around, the Seattle Seahawks took him 19th overall. Now, here's the first thing people forget about Shaun Alexander. He wasn't handed anything in Seattle. His first season, he was the backup. He waited, he watched, he learned the system behind veteran Ricky Watters. And when his number was called, when Watters went down, Shaun was ready. In 2001, his first full season as a starter, he rushed for 1,318 yards and 14 touchdowns. Just like that, Seattle had their guy, but Shaun Alexander didn't come to Seattle to be decent. He came to dominate. In 2002, on ESPN Sunday Night Football at home against the Minnesota Vikings, he scored 5 touchdowns in the first half alone. 5 in one half. An NFL record that still stands. He caught an 80-yard touchdown pass and scored on 4 separate rushing attempts, all before halftime. By the end of the season, he had 16 rushing touchdowns, leading the entire NFC. The NFL was put on notice. What people miss when they talk about Shaun Alexander is his consistency. From 2001 to 2005, 5 straight seasons, he never dipped below 1,175 rushing yards. He never scored fewer than 14 rushing touchdowns, not once. He averaged 1,500 rushing yards and nearly 20 touchdowns per season across that stretch. In the entire history of the NFL, only one running back has ever topped 1,100 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns in more than 5 consecutive seasons. His name is LaDainian Tomlinson, arguably the greatest running back of all time. LDT did it 8 straight years. Shaun Alexander did it 5. Everyone else, they couldn't touch it. Then came 2005. The 2005 season was one of the greatest individual performances in NFL history. Full stop. Shaun Alexander rushed for 1,880 yards, leading the entire league, and scored 27 rushing touchdowns. 27. That number still stands as the second most rushing touchdowns ever scored in a single season. The only man above him, LaDainian Tomlinson, who broke Alexander's record the very next year. He also set the all-time NFL record at the time with 28 total touchdowns. He had 2 separate 4-touchdown games in the regular season. He went for 165 yards against the Rams, 88 against Arizona, game after game after game. The Seahawks went 13-3. They secured the NFC's #1 seed. And when the Associated Press handed out the MVP award, it wasn't close. Shaun Alexander was the best player in the NFL running back, wide receiver, quarterback, anyone. He was the best player in football. Then Seattle put him on the cover of Madden NFL 2007. If you know anything about sports, you know what happened next. The Madden Curse is real. Ask Alexander. He signed a then-record contract in March 2006. 8 years, $62 million, the richest deal ever given to a running back at that time. Seattle was all in. The city was buzzing. And then, in week 3 of the season, he fractured his left foot. He came back. He rushed for 37 yards on 17 carries. He was clearly not right. The following year, it was a fractured wrist, then sprains in both knees and an ankle. The injuries piled up, and when your whole game is built on vision and patience and timing, when finding the crease a half-second early is everything, those injuries don't just hurt, they erase you. The Seahawks released him after the 2007 season. He had a brief, forgettable stint with Washington in 2008, and then he was gone. Just like that. 2 years after being the MVP, Shaun Alexander was out of the NFL. That brutal fall from MVP to unemployment is a big part of why he isn't in Canton. Voters see the cliff and forget the mountain. Now let's address the argument head on, because it's the one you've heard 100 times. Shaun Alexander was only good because of his offensive line. Walter Jones, his left tackle, is one of the best offensive linemen in NFL history. Steve Hutchinson, his left guard, made 7 All-Pro teams. Yes, they were exceptional. Nobody is disputing that. But here's what Alexander himself said when he was asked about it. "My line was good. I would never go against that. But you see what happened when Brady and Randy Moss got to play together." Think about what he's saying. Brady was already great before Moss. Moss was already elite before Brady. But together, they set the single-season passing touchdown record. Nobody says Brady only had that season because of Moss. Great players make other great players better. That's how it works. And there's another thing worth noting. When Steve Hutchinson left for the Minnesota Vikings after the 2006 season, the Seahawks offensive line weakened significantly. That was the same year Alexander broke his foot and never recovered. So the line and the player declined together. But that doesn't tell you anything about which one caused the other. What it does tell you is this. The offensive line argument has been used to keep an MVP winning running back who scored 100 career rushing touchdowns out of the Hall of Fame, while his blockers both walked straight into Canton. Let's talk about what Alexander actually was as a runner, because the stat sheet doesn't capture the full picture. He wasn't a bruiser. He wasn't trying to run over people. You see, his game was patience and instinct. He would wait and wait and wait behind the line of scrimmage, longer than almost anyone else dared to, and then explode through a crease the moment it opened. His vision was elite. Not good, elite. Former teammates talked about it constantly. He saw the whole field at all times. He knew where the hole was going to be before it existed. And once he hit the second level, he was faster than people gave him credit for. And he had the balance to make defenders miss in space. He wasn't just a product of his line. He was the engine that made the offense go. So, how good was Shaun Alexander actually? He's 9th all-time in NFL history in rushing touchdowns with 100. He's the Seattle Seahawks all-time leader in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and total touchdowns. And that franchise has had Marshawn Lynch, one of the most beloved runners in league history. Alexander's rushing touchdown lead over Lynch in Seattle history is 42, not 4. 42. He was one of only 4 running backs in this entire millennium to win the NFL MVP award. He put up a 5-year run that only LaDainian Tomlinson has ever matched. He was named to the NFL's 2000s All-Decade team. Emmitt Smith calls him, Marcus Allen calls him, Marshall Faulk calls him. The greatest running backs of all time calling Shaun Alexander, confused about why he's not in Canton. They'll be like, "That's right, you're not in the Hall of Fame," Alexander said with a smile. And that's always honoring. Here's the truth. Shaun Alexander's career was short. The injuries were real. The Madden Curse was real. And yes, he had an exceptional offensive line, but he was also a generational talent who produced numbers that a generation of defenders never figured out how to stop. He was very, very good, and the Hall of Fame voters are getting it wrong. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. We do deep dives like this every week. See you at the next one.